What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Dead Noise. I'm Chris, and thanks to the power of Zoom, I am so excited to be here with a shock rock legend and a North Carolina native, much like myself, the Duke of Spook, the Mr. Motherfucker, the one and only Mr. Wednesday 13. How you doing today, sir?
Good. I'm good. I'm awake. I'm alive. It's the first week of June. It's crazy. Time is flying by, and but it's good. It's a good day to be a bad guy.
So, first things first, your latest album, your 10th studio album, Mid-Death Crisis, has been out for a little over a month now. And I know this was an album that you were very proud of from the very beginning, as it's shown in the press you've been doing and just the sound of the album itself. It's a very lively, upbeat album, and you knew that the fans were going to love this, and you were correct in assuming that. So, how has the reception been while you've been playing these new songs on the road and hearing the feedback on social media? How has it been for you?
It's kind of crazy that it like I can go, oh man, it's overwhelming to get the response, and it is. But at the same time, you remind me what I reminded me of what I said before. Like I knew my fans were going to like this, and it proved to me that I know what my fans like now. I don't know if I necessarily knew that all the time, but I knew this one. I don't know. I just it was almost like I think that's what made this record so cool was because I knew from the beginning I had some good stuff here, and I couldn't wait for everyone else to hear the rest of the record. The videos and the singles are cool, but as you probably the same way since you like the record and are a fan, um, your probably favorite songs on the record aren't the singles, and I knew that was going to be the case too for everybody, and it is for me. Those singles aren't necessarily my favorite songs because but I like every song on the record. So I guess it was a good problem to have this time around, and the fans loved it.
Yes, absolutely. You made a really good point that normally my favorite songs as a hardcore fan of anybody, it's not the singles that are always my favorites, but I also know that you had a very hard time picking the singles and listening to the album, I can understand why, because every song is just so solid. And I know, if I'm not mistaken, I Hurt You is kind of intended to be like a post-album single, is that right?
Yeah, there's several songs that I wanted to do videos for. So I don't know what we're gonna make videos for, or what I'm gonna have time to do, or what. I Hurt You's on the list, My Funeral's on the list, Sick and Violence on the list, Rotting Away's on the list, Decapitation. I have video concepts for all of these, and they're all doable. Of course, I can't do all of them. I'm just trying to decide what the best move is because video and the songs sometimes necessarily aren't, oh, this is my favorite, or for example, we're going on tour in July, so I feel like the next video, if I put a video out before we go on tour, it should obviously be a song that we're going to play live.
Hmm.
I don't know that all those songs I just mentioned are going to be live songs yet. Like I Hurt You, I want to play that song, but I don't know if I want to play it on this upcoming tour. So do I make a video for that and then don't play the song? Would be kind of. So I'm trying to decide what I'm going to play. Like I know I'm going to play that one, so it would make more sense to do a video. So Rotting Away is one that I want to do a video for, but I have to be clever with it and not do something with a graveyard because I did that within Misery. So I have a cool new idea for a couple things. But either way, I'll get that stuff done. But as far as the singles and the way I pick them, after you hear the record now and you hear all the songs and you can maybe understand where I came from picking the singles. Like Devil Commands, I love that song. It's fun to play live. It's not my favorite song on the record, but I thought as a Wednesday 13 new album coming out, I can't always assume that my fans that are listening to the band have been there since the beginning. Some of them are, a lot of them aren't. A lot of people discovered the band around the Condolences era when the band was shifting in the heavier direction. And some people know Wednesday 13 as a heavier band and not necessarily as the I Walk with a Zombie old school fans. So I wanted to ease my fans into it. I knew that the old school fans that have been on the journey since the beginning wouldn't be upset with a song like Devil Commands. I'd be like, this rocks. This is cool. This sounds like Wednesday. I get it. But those newer fans, I wanted to ease them into it. I didn't want to come right out and go, here's Decapitation. They'd be like, what the fuck is this? So I thought about that. Some people will go, why do you even care? I'm like, well, it's just, I think about things like that. So I thought that was a good way to maybe ease some of the newer fans and older fans at the same time. I knew In Misery would get the older fans, but it gained a whole new level of fans, and I think that was the of the three songs, that was the hit, if you want to say there was one. I mean, the video has had the most views. It's the song that we played live instantly, and fans were singing it. Girls were crying already. I knew I had a good one there. It's a cool reaction. I don't necessarily need to be on a chart or go, oh, your record was the number one record this week. But when I look out and see a connection, and I already see fans singing these songs and they're already emotionally attached to it, that's my award.
I imagine that's really gratifying too. And I remember when you played No Apologies at my show in Raleigh, the song wasn't out yet, but a lot of
Okay.
people like were singing along to it by the end of the song. They picked up on the words, especially in the chorus.
That's what traditional rock and roll is to me. And I realize now, and it's crazy because it just, like I said, I was saying to you earlier, I've been on tour and I just feel like I'm coming out of that warp speed on Star Wars, and everything just slowed down. The same thing happened when I realized that I'm going to be 50 years old next year. I feel like I just literally just went, whoa, that just stopped. Whoa, you're going to be 50? And then I start paying attention to everything now that I'm aware of that, and I pay attention to newer music now. I don't listen to new music. I don't watch new movies really either. So I'm not being a jerk about it. I just don't listen to stuff. But when I do, when I hear this new, especially particularly music, I listen to music and I just go, music's in a different spectrum now. It's not following the classical thing anymore whatsoever. And uh, so I realize that I do something unique now. It's not anything different for me. It's unique because it's not the common way that people write songs now. People write songs now, uh, I do it on my own now because I know how to do this. I can write a song here and write everything in my bedroom, but people are doing that now without bands and releasing albums. I went into a garage with a bunch of my friends and made what I turned into over the years. So I don't know. Music is just crazy now. It's different. I have respect for it, but I just realized, what I'm doing is sort of a dying thing. So I'm glad to be flying the flag for it. I'm glad to see that young fans are resonating with it because it's not following the new formula. But yeah, it's crazy that this is, you know 30 years of doing this now since Frankenstein Drag Queens. I think it'll be 30 years next year of that band. Just most of my life has been making music and doing this, and I'm glad that I've stuck really close to where I started.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I didn't drift off far from where Frankenstein Drag Queens are. The music is still in the same vein. It's still in the same world. You know, I'm either a better dressed person or a worse dressed person compared to them now, depending on who how you view it. So,
And you always sprinkle in like lyrical references to your earlier work throughout your albums. And this album, Mid-Death Crisis itself, was it felt like a celebratory album in the sense that like it kind of celebrated all the different eras of your discography because I don't know if you know this, but you've sounded very different over the course of your career. You've done a lot of different things
Mhm.
musically. So this one kind of just wraps it all together, but it's still something fresh and new. And I'm reminded of the band Sum 41. They put out their farewell album last year,
Hmm.
and it was like a double album where the first half was their old school pop punk roots, and then the second half was their more recent metal stuff.
Right.
And Derek said himself, like when he was writing the songs that were geared more towards the older sound, that he was a little nervous because he hadn't written like that in so long. He's like, can I still
Mhm.
do this? Did you experience a similar type of anxiety, or was it more excitement on your end coming off of the Murder Dolls tour?
The thing is, writing that style of music, that kind of what I consider like the early stuff. The reason I shifted gears, well, many reasons. I had a different lineup with my band. My drummer just came in. He was like a drum machine. I get this guy to play anything, and I just went experimenting. The reason I went experimenting, the record and the music kind of changed around 2015, probably with the big shift. Uh, was because writing this kind of stuff was so easy for me. I didn't feel like I was challenged enough, and I was starting to question if it was good, if that made sense. So I needed to shift gears a bit. So when I came back to writing this stuff, and all these songs you hear on this record are the ones they came naturally. It wasn't weeks and weeks of struggling, try to get this sound or this. Those songs just the ones you hear are the ones that I wrote really quick. They just popped off. Uh, so it does naturally come back to me. And the cool thing about this record was was reminded that just because it may seem easy and simple for me doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. And I don't know why that got into my head that it was or something, but that was the shift in the music. Was I just don't feel like I was challenged or I don't know. But now I know that I got that confidence back, that don't second guess some of these things. Just do it. Go on your vibe. And now that I kind of feel like I know my audience a little bit because I did guess this record right. I knew they would I knew they would like it, you know. So I just have to go with my gut now. And you know, I don't know, just anybody in their career over time, you'll get a little swayed away from where you were in the beginning. I mean, fuck, this 20 years of Wednesday 13. It's over 20 years of Wednesday 13 actually, but it's a long time. And sometimes people they get swept up, get, you know, out in the ocean too far, and you got to swim back to shore, and you go, okay, I know where I am now. I'm not going back out that far again. That's where I am.
Well, it's a lot like I always compare. It's easy to make comparisons to Alice Cooper. He's my favorite artist of all time. I know
Mhm.
he was a huge influence on you as well.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah.
And he's had so many different eras of his career. You had the classic rock with the original band, then you had the cocaine years, then you had the hair metal years, then the
Mhm.
metal years.
I'm literally following in his footsteps. I've compared my whole catalog in the same way that you're comparing. You know, the Alice eras.
Hmm.
Mine are eras too. People just may not know yet because the book isn't out. They don't. I'm not old enough to have the history of Alice. You know what I mean? Like it's like so you know. You can go through my records and go, oh, well, skeletons, that's the alcohol years. And then you've got blah, blah, blah. And then you've got, oh, well, this is, you know what I mean? So there's a whole thing, but it's so crazy that it literally is lining the same way with Alice. The universe is moving us in those same directions. And it's crazy because now he's on top of his game, and his age is, but he's killing it. He's perfect. Here I am at almost 50, and I'm better than I was then. You know, it's crazy that how this, I don't know, man. And then you go on the YouTube and watch and read any of the comments on all the new videos. You will see the name Alice Cooper every 5 comments. People going, this guy sounds like Alice Cooper. Who is this person? Alice Cooper. This sounds like Alice Cooper. This is Alice Cooper. I'm just, it's a really cool, flattering thing. And I don't try to be like Alice Cooper. It just is. And if that's who I get compared to, I don't hear anyone else out there getting compared to Alice Cooper, but me. and that's something I take as an honor. And he knows of me. He's been on my record. It's I'm good there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you knew that I meant that in a complimentary way too, because I know when artists, some artists, like when they hear them being compared to somebody else, it's kind of like not derogatory, but they kind of like don't love being compared. But like you're being compared to the
No,
GOAT, so
no, it's exactly like that. There's records that he doesn't really remember making. I got
Mhm.
a couple that are kind of weird like that. So it's ironic that it's falling parallel to that. It's crazy, and so now it's like now Alice influences. He influenced me a long time ago to sound this way, and the showmanship on stage, the theatrics, everything. And now I'm looking and going, man, now when I want to be like that at his age, I want to be so good at this. And so he's just been a lifelong inspiring person. And he doesn't blab about politics, he doesn't blab about religion. If he's asked about it, he's smart about it. He knows that, and that's why Alice has always remained cool with everybody in the rock scene because he doesn't fucking talk. And I've learned from him. I've learned to shut up. I've been guilty of it, but he's just either way. He inspires me still to this day in different ways.
I always say like my Mount Rushmore of shock rock is you, Alice, Marilyn Manson, and Rob Zombie. When you listen to your music, it's kind of obvious to hear the influence of Alice
Mhm.
Cooper because your voice is really similar. This is kind of a two-parter. I want to start with how did you perfect that kind of vocal grit without like killing your voice?
Uh, it's still to this day. I'm learning how to do it. But in the beginning, I don't know, man. I've asked this question. I don't know how I ended up sounding the way I do because when I think back to when I first started, I was a guitar player in a band, and we couldn't find a steady vocalist. We had a guy that joined the band, then he quit, and then we got another guy, and he was an asshole, and then we got another guy, and he or whatever, whatever the circumstances were. Uh, and I just went up to the microphone one day at rehearsal. We didn't have a vocalist. I'm like, hey, I wrote this new song. It kind of goes like this, and I sang what my verse would be, and my band was like, "Whoa, do that again. Do what? Let me try it again." And it was just my adrenaline, and I came out sounding the way I sound. Do you sound good? You're the singer. We don't need anybody. You could do this. And then I switched. I became the vocalist of the band, and then it just became, oh, how do I perfect this? How do I sound like it? And I don't know how I did it. I just did it. I tell people imagination and a dream and wanting something and just, it's crazy what you set your mind to do sometimes. And it fucking happens. And I wanted to sound like Alice, and I wanted to sound like Skid Row. I love Skid Row at the same time when I was starting to in bands. And I love Sebastian Bach's voice. I love his presence. I wanted to sound like Alice and Sebastian because Alice had the snarl, he had he talked like this, and then you have Sebastian who could come in and have that snarl but hold a note for a mile. And I wanted to sound like both of them, and I somehow sound like a mixture of Alice Cooper and Sebastian Bach because I do the same. I do. That's what I do. That's what I try to do, and I've been compared to both of them over my career constantly. People hear that, so that's where. But again, I don't know how the fuck I did it. But what I've done over the years is I've learned how not to blow my voice out because I used to back in the day I'd play a show and I couldn't talk for 5 days because
Mhm.
I would blow it out. So and Murder Dolls, same struggle. I didn't know what to do. Now I wear in-ear monitors, which has been a huge help on just it's just I don't know. Again, with age and time, I've learned how to understand how it works. I don't know if I don't I'm not an American Idol vocalist that comes in and goes, "All right, guys." You know, I don't know if what I do. I don't know how I do what I do, but I do it. I'm able to growl and key, if that makes sense. And I've gotten better at it over time.
It's so funny you mentioned Sebastian Bach because when I first got into your music, I was still in college, and Silver Bullets was the first song I heard, and it was pretty straightforward vocally, like it reminded me of Alice Cooper. And
Mhm.
then I heard Curse of Me, and with the
There
chorus,
you
I was
go.
like, "Oh my gosh!" And that's honestly probably what hooked me in even more. So to hear
Mhm.
you kind of say that and confirm that, I'm like, okay, that's really cool. And
Absolutely, that song is still. That's why it isn't in the set list because it is a. It's I need to practice that one. It's still maybe I could probably sing it these days because I'm actually have those in-ear monitors. But back in the day, it was kind of limited how we played that song. But yeah, in the studio, that's my Whaler. That's my Sebastian song. But dude, he's been a I mean, there was no better front man on the planet Earth than when that guy reigned with those first two records.
oh yeah.
I mean, he was. I mean, I remember it. I was when that was live happening, and it was just like you couldn't fuck with that guy, you know. And that was a cool thing. So he's a huge influence on me as a front man and vocalist.
You had said in another interview during the press cycle of Mid-Death Crisis that there were a couple moments in the studio where you felt like certain lines needed a little more of that Alice-ism, if that's the
Mhm.
proper term. And I was trying to figure out as I was listening through the album when it came out, like what moments those were. And do you remember which ones they were?
Uh, Going to the record right now. Probably on Decapitation would be the first time I do it. Because the end of that song, when it goes to decapitation, when it changes to the key change or whatever in the vocals,
Hmm.
and I'm in the back going, "I'm talking to you, off with their heads," or that's the Alice because I was trying to do like the Department of Youth at the end. Who gave it to you? Donny Osmond. So that's where the first Alice comes in, and I'm sure there's another one on there, but that's just the main one that I think of. And I've just done it on a lot of my records at least once or twice. And if there's ever a song and I go, I don't know, this sounds too pretty to me. Let me snarl it up, and I just uh, that's my Alice. So he's always got a little stamp on there. And I heard D. Snyder did the same thing when he did when he recorded Captain Howdy in that song, and just oh, it's so nice to see you. Like he's like I should be doing my best Alice Cooper, and I'm like okay, so it's yeah. I didn't feel so alone then because I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it too.
To the earlier point that you made of like the realization of you turning 50 next year and kind of having that and having that influence kind of the concept and the overall like arch of mid-death crisis and also hearing a band member say that phrase.
Mhm.
Originally with the song My Funeral, that was the first song that was written for the record, and
Mhm.
if I remember correctly, the original concept was an album called Funeral World, and that was going to be like basically the title track.
Mhm.
How different is the final product of Mid-Death Crisis to what you originally planned with Funeral World?
It's exactly the same. The only difference was, as I thought that would maybe be the title track, and I had some artwork already planned with the title "Funeral World" because the song was originally called "Funeral World," and I don't know if I was ever truly happy with that in the song. I like the title, but it
Hmm.
didn't flow vocally. It just didn't make sense. And then even when I went to record it in the very beginning, we did the basic tracks, it was still called Funeral World. And I think I went home one night and went, man, I gotta fucking change this. This doesn't make sense. And it became My Funeral. And then I went to the studio and went, well, I can't call the album My Funeral because I already had condolences. All right, fuck it. Next, moved on. I didn't think about the album artwork until much, much later. So, and my artist Johnny Bush, he's a big fan of Goosebumps uh, series, and I don't know it as well because that's I was older than that. But my daughter watched some of that stuff, and I was reminded of some of the imagery. And there was a Goosebumps series called Horrorland,
Hmm.
and Funeral World was going to be loosely based on that. So if anyone's fans of that, I can kind of get visually where I was going with it. But as far as the theme and the songs, everything was still going to be the same. I just was going to call it. It was going to be me just again taking the piss of getting older. Funeral World, everything was death, but in like in an amusement park type kind of way.
Yeah, I mean the line "laughing all the way to the all the way to the grave" kind of just sums the whole thing up right there.
Yeah, and
I
it
love
was
it.
gonna have stuff inside. Must be this dead to ride. Like it was a few like a carnival kind of, which is still a cool thing. It just didn't go there.
I
So
mean, you
yeah,
could always revisit it in
yeah,
some fashion because like going back to Alice Cooper, his album Dragontown was originally going to be called Spirits Rebellious, but then it turned
yeah.
into a song on his on the next album, The
Hmm.
Eyes of Alice Cooper, which is my favorite of
Hmm.
his.
Hmm.
So there's always potential, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, there's always I always got these ideas wrote down, and then when I go back to the when I start writing for the next record, I'll revisit the end of my last songbook and go, what did I not use?
Mm.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good idea. And some stuff. I think a few things probably trickled over on this record from the last one as well. I Hurt You, the melody of that song originally was just on a keyboard. And I think I did a demo that really was just like, it was just keyboards and drums and bass. It had no guitar and it was just the melody of what I sing in the verse of the chorus of that song,
Hmm.
and I ended up playing it on guitar, and it just changed everything from that original thing. So that was a old idea that came over.
Speaking of other old ideas that came over, a
Hmm.
highlight when this album first got announced in February and the track list came out for hardcore fans like me was the inclusion of Xanaxtasy. And
Yeah,
I asked you about this at the meet and greet in Raleigh, and I want to talk to you about it a little more now. You changed it up a little bit, and it's a little more rock and roll, straightforward. But my first question about this is what for those who don't know, first of all, this song was originally written for your Gunfire 76 project in 2009, and then
yes.
it came out as like a one-off iTunes exclusive single with the song It's a Wonderful Lie in, I believe, 2010-ish.
Hmm.
So what made this year and this album the right time to revisit that song and give it a proper release almost 15 years later?
Funny stories about both of those songs. So 2008 into the Skeletons touring cycle, I was burnt out on the Wednesday 13 stuff and I wanted to do something totally different. Did my Gunfire 76 project. It was short lived because Murder Dolls got back together.
Hmm.
Right before Murder Dolls got back together, I went in the studio and I recorded Xanaxtasy and Wonderful Lie. And Murder Dolls happened right as soon as I finished recording. I did Murder Dolls, and then I didn't know what to do with those songs. I think they came out on a Wednesday 13 vinyl as a just under a Wednesday 13. Maybe it was listed as Gunfire. I don't remember. Uh, but either way, it was kind of written for Gunfire. Love the song, didn't think about it for a long time, and last year when I had almost every song ready for or had enough songs for this album, just ideas and stuff, someone on my Facebook, a friend of mine, posted a YouTube clip of Xanaxtasy, and I hadn't listened to it in 10 years or whatever, and he wrote, "This one always one of my favorite songs of yours." And I listened to it and I went, man, this is a cool song. No one's Yeah, and I read the comments. A lot of people going, "This is my favorite Wednesday 13 song." Like obscure, kind of the the hidden, deep cut. And I went, "That's a cool song." And I remember later, or I remember when I started trying to play the song. I mean, it was in a different tuning. Wednesday 13 songs we tune in the drop C tuning, and Gunfire and First Murder Dolls album was recorded in a standard 4/4 tuning. Any guitar players, musicians know the difference in that. So original version is in standard tuning. The new version is in drop C tuning, which makes it a little heavier sounding, I guess. And but the main reason that I changed the riff, the original riff is da na 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 na. I like that riff, but I was reminded when I recorded that song shortly after, somebody goes, "That song's cool. That sounds like Celebrity Skin by Hole." Ba-na, ana, ana, oh, that's, and I went, fuck, it is kind of the same chords, same tuning. I think I played it. It's exactly play along to it. And I went, oh fuck, man, maybe I should have changed the arrangement of that and did something a little different. So when I revisited it, I made sure I didn't play Celebrity Skin by Hole. So I just played it different. It's still the same song. It's just different. And I didn't expect a lot of older fans. There's people you'll see to go, I prefer the original. That's great. When Twisted Sister re-recorded Stay Hungry, I didn't like most of it. I like, not that I didn't like it, I like the original better.
Hmm.
I'm not going to change people's brains on that, but this is why things changed on this version. I wanted to dissect it. I wanted to make it a little more Wednesday 13. I think I shaved a minute and a half off of that song from the original. And I just wanted to do something a little different. And but I think both are super cool versions. If you know the original and like them both, cool. If you like one better than the other, I don't. It's not. There's not a bad version of that song. It's just who prefers which one the best. But yeah, that's why that song changed. It's a Wonderful Lie. You brought that song up. We were talking about Alice Cooper earlier. I wrote that song for Alice Cooper, one of his records. Me and Damon Johnson became a friend of mine when he was in the band, and I submitted that song to Damon Johnson for one of the Alice Cooper records, which I think was for what was after Dirty Diamonds.
Along Came
Um,
a Spider.
and what was after that one?
Welcome to My Nightmare.
Okay. Either way, there was something in between around that time that he did. There's a record that didn't even come out that he recorded around that time too.
It was
Uh,
Keeping Halloween Alive was going to be a single on it, right?
yeah, and me and Matt Piggy from Zombie Manson's band, we
Hmm.
wrote a couple songs for Alice before that too. So we submitted songs because he would have outside songwriters all the time. But It's a Wonderful Lie was wrote for Alice Cooper. So
Wow.
if you hear that Alice Cooper "Be My Lover" sort of vibe in that song, that's completely intentional. And So yeah, that's a funny thing about that. People ask me, "Are you going to re-record that?" I'm like, I don't know. I always thought it was a funny title anyway.
I know on this last tour cycle, you only got to play the singles from this album live, but I feel like you could probably play this album front to back and nobody would be upset about it. So, which songs are you excited to eventually bring to the stage?
I'm making my set now. I mean, I'm going to keep the singles that the guys know how to play and keep them fresh in our brains that we can play the rehearsed. And but I want to add. I'd like to add Bloodstorm. I'd like to add Rotting Away. Those two for sure. I don't know if Decapitation is going to make it on this tour or the next one. But yeah, there's definitely a few like Sick and Violent. I want to do that one, My Funeral. And you're right. I think that's another thing. I think we'll be able to play a good chunk of these songs and not make anyone upset. Um, because, and I'm guilty of doing it too. I go see bands and when they start playing too much of the new stuff and I don't know it or I don't like it, I'm just like, Oscar clock, wrap it up. Too many new songs. And, I'm all about new songs when they're good new songs. And I feel like I got a bunch of good new songs. So again, not a bad problem to have.
Speaking to that point, you're getting ready to go back to Europe this summer, and you got a couple more shows there in the fall too. And that's
Mhm.
kind of, I don't want to say that's kind of like your hometown crowd, but they've always had a wonderful reception to you since the Murder Dolls days. So, how excited are you to bring this album to the other side of the pond?
I'm excited. And it's got a little time to build as well. And, people know it. By the time we get there, the record's been out, I don't know what, 3 months or something like that.
Mhm.
So it's a good, thing for people to digest it and know it. Because by the time we get there, the record's not really new at that point, especially if you're a diehard and you're listening to it over and over on a streaming service. And it's not like the old day where you got to go back and hit play again on your CD or turn the record over. Like you just repeat this shit, and people hear it all day. So it's just and it mix it in. It's all together. So it's a killer response overseas. It's the UK has been is my home. It always has been. We've got shows that are selling out over there, and it's just I don't know. The reception is just I don't know. I don't know why it's not like that here in the States. It was the same thing for Murder Dolls. It was big in the UK, like huge, and then we'd come to the States and play, not even a sold out club show. Even with having a dude from Slipknot. It's just and I've realized that's what I'm when I was saying earlier. I am that unique. If you know about it, it's not for everybody. It's not mainstream. But we're that little cockroach of rock and roll where we just won't go away. We're over there in the corner. Big bands over here. We're over there in that corner.
And we appreciate that. Us fans are glad you guys are still doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of brings me to another question. Speaking of like hometown reception, with you being from North Carolina and growing up outside of Charlotte a little bit, when you get to go to these places like Spartanburg, South Carolina, or Greensboro, or where I saw you in Raleigh, like what's that like for you? Is it fun to kind of revisit some familiar-ish locations like that?
Oh yeah, it's always fun to go back. Like Spartanburg, Ground Zero. I mean, I started playing there in 1997 for the first time. But what I realized this last time, Raleigh, when we played there, was I think it was sold out. It was packed. It was a ton of people, and it wasn't anyone that I knew before. 10 years ago, there was still people from oh, I used to come see you play with, Frankenstein drag queens or whatever. But that wasn't the case this time. I didn't recognize anybody. I had a couple of friends of mine that came to the show that I knew were there, but like I'm just kind of because when I'm on stage playing for an hour and a half, I can scan an audience and I can look out and see people and I go, oh, I know that guy. I know that dude. I went to school with that guy. I didn't see anybody. I saw a bunch of younger kids with X's on their hands. I went, what's happening here? And it wasn't like a bad thing or anything. It just I just think this time I think a lot of those people have kind of moved on. There's still a few people there, but in the local scene, it's all new people. So I guess that's a good thing when you still can build new fans over the years because that's why some bands go away because when those old fans start coming to the shows, they haven't made any new fans so you don't get to play anymore. So I'm been very fortunate that a younger generation has discovered my music.
As I was asking that, I was kind of telling myself, I'm like, well, a lot of those people from back then probably aren't around anymore because I know Chapel of Bones is a relatively new venue. It was under a
I used
different
to
name,
it was called Volume 11
right?
and I used to play there before. And then at Raleigh we used to play fuck, what was the name of that place? Was it the brewery? Was that called maybe? And then there was the Caboose and Garner. North Carolina. Like it just we slugged it out and played any live music venue from Raleigh to South Carolina that would take a band. We played there.
I remember you telling me at the meet and greet that you had actually played in my hometown in Jacksonville, and that venue doesn't even exist anymore. And I was telling myself, like, if I wasn't 6 years old at the time, that would have been so cool.
Yeah, I played a lot of places. It's crazy when you look back at the places and venues and bands and labels, and I've outlasted a lot of things. And I'm still doing stuff and able to do stuff and tour, and I thankful that like I said, a younger generation has discovered it, and it's also that shows that what I've been doing is timeless. It wasn't just for that time when it came out, and it speaks to everybody, and I think that's because I didn't chase a trend. I wasn't trying to do something that was popular then, and I'm not trying to do something that's popular now.
The American tour that you just wrapped up was also kind of a celebration of 20 years of your debut solo album, Transylvania 90210. Can European fans in the summer expect a similar set list?
Uh, I don't. I'm still going to be doing stuff off Transylvania, but I don't think it's going to be as heavy as the Transylvania stuff we just did here, because I want to bring in some other songs. I definitely when I did this tour, I definitely missed a lot of stuff that even from the last couple records, like "Good Day to Be a Bad Guy" and "Decompose" off the Necrophase album, and
Yeah.
so I'm going to bring in back some of those songs, something off Dixie Dead and something off Monsters of the Universe. I want to kind of bring in something off the other records. I don't know. I'm going to try to keep it fresh and different for me and for the fans. So it may be a little different on this July run than America, and then the October run is probably a little different than July and America. Uh, I don't know yet. This is what I would like to do. Whether that happens, we'll see.
We'll bring back this clip in the fall and see see what happens.
Yeah.
Um, Now, what was it like to kind of revisit a lot of those songs and just that era of your music? Because I know you brought out a lot of songs that you hadn't played in a long time. So to both see the fans' reaction to those songs, but also like for you yourself, what was it like to relive that album?
It's great. I mean, you know, doing the Wednesday 13 solo thing, I didn't know if it was going to last past the first record. Like, I didn't know I was doing that in between Murder Dolls taking a break or not even knowing Murder Dolls are going to do something again. I went, I'll do this until something else happens. Maybe I'll get in another band. I don't know. And then to know that it's been 20 years since that record came out, and when we go into a song like for example Vincent Price, which is kind of like a deep cut over the years, that's a favorite everyone likes, but like when we play that live and we've got that little track that plays of the keyboard before the song starts, and I hear people scream because they know it's coming. They're like, oh man, and I just go, man, that's so cool. I didn't know that was going to get that reaction. 20 years later, like that's when people, like when I go to a concert and I hear Alice Cooper, Vincent Price, beginning of Black Widow, his words he speaks are true. We're all humanaries, or hear the beginning of Alice doing that, or that just you go, oh fuck, it's coming. So it's just I don't know. It makes me happy to see that.
That kind of brings me to another question was like, were there certain songs from that album that you played that like got a bigger reaction than you were expecting? Because Vincent Price was one of those for me, and another one of my all-time favorites of yours was God Is a Lie. And when you
That one,
introed
yeah.
that one, I was like, oh my God, no way.
Yeah, a lot of people went crazy for that. It was cool. I did it right after after Devil Commands. I thought it was cool just to go, the Devil Commands. And by the way, God is a lie. I don't know if people got the joke on that. But yeah, and that was another one that when people would just start screaming. And Here to the Hearse was another one we pulled out. That's another another favorite. So yeah, it's so hard to make a set list, but I do want to play these new songs, and so am looking at adding a few more. So you might get 5 or 6 new songs smashed into the set list, but I don't think people are going to complain about it.
And I know you announced a support tour in the States in
Mhm.
January. Is there any chance of a mid-death crisis headliner next year for America?
Yes, of course. Yeah, the way people see touring, and a lot of people get defensive. I'm sure you see in comments on social media when every band announces a tour. If you go in the comments, it's why aren't you playing here? Why are you skip my town? You're too good to play here. Blah blah blah. Uh, there's a lot of territory, and a lot of bands have to play, and they got to stretch that territory out sometimes. So
Hmm.
for us, people go, "Oh, you're not playing America rest of this year." I'm like, "Well, it's only, there's not a whole lot left in this year. We're already halfway through it."
Yeah.
There's 6 months left, so in 6.5 months we'll be back, which in January, and it's and we've got a great slot with these bands. Lord of the Lost became friends with those guys, and it's great venues. We get a cool opening set. I think we got like a 40-minute set with this, which is great for an opening band. And then later in the year we'll probably come back with a headline tour, or we'll do another support tour. But yeah, we just got to space stuff out around the places, because if you yeah, it's especially, well, I have to. I'm not the kind of band. Some bands can come back to these territories and do it better, but for me and what I do, I have to sort of to stretch it out, and make it work. And that's how I'm able to tour for 2 years on a what we call a cycle for a record, because I go, oh, it literally takes 2 years to hit all of these territories and make and get just about every place that needs to be hit.
You're also a very in-demand artist overseas. You have such a great fan base in Australia and Europe. So I always think it's incredible how you find a way to visit those areas just about every single cycle. Because like one
Yes,
of my favorite bands, Blue Oyster Cult, they've been around for decades. They've only been to Australia once,
I
and you
know.
go every single time.
I don't think Typo Negative ever went to Australia. When I was touring with them, they told me they'd never been there.
Wow.
Um, and not because they couldn't. I think because they didn't want to. They couldn't ship their keyboards or something. But they never went. But you're right. There's a lot of bands that's never uh, been, or have only been once, or I've lost count. I was going to Australia every single year from 2010 up until COVID hit. I don't know any other band that tours like that. I used to do England twice a year, Germany twice a year. So I've been lucky to do these things, and like I said, and being a kind of obscure artist.
I'm very envious of some of the overseas fans, especially for this run in the fall that you've got, because they're gonna get you, Blitzkid, Calabrese. I think Calabrese is on the lineup,
Yeah.
and also the other. Like the horror punk and horror rock is just so alive overseas, and to have a bill like that, I'm just so jealous.
It is in that market. In Germany, there's this the German audiences are super cool. And when I played that old music at some of my shows, when we go into an old song like Rambo or something, people just start going insane. I'm like, and I've always thought, man, if we ever come over here and do like a proper like horror punk, and I'm really going to try to steer towards some of my older stuff for that tour as well. I hadn't thought that far into it, but I gotta. But yeah, those bands are Calabrese and Blitzkid. They've been around for a long time, and I've become friends with all those guys. And I tried to get those Calabrese on this last tour. It didn't work out in the States. So I'm hoping in the future I can do both of we bring this same sort of lineup to the States. I think that would be killer.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. Selfishly, I hope that tour, when, if and when it happens, would come to the Carolinas.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something we'd have to set up ourselves, but depending on if it makes everybody's budget. I know a lot of these bands like us, we have to headline to make the money, and all three of those, but you know what I'm saying? So it's kind
Yep.
of like that's the reality. People, why don't you guys tour together? So because there's not enough money to pay all of us. It's not that we don't want to, and that was literally why Calabrese couldn't do the last one. Wasn't enough money for them to do. So hopefully the horror rock stars will align.
Now, before I let you go, this is
Mhm.
my favorite part of every interview. I have a speed round for you.
Okay,
Now, I normally kind of split this up, especially with artists like yourself. So we're going to start with five music related questions and then five horror movie related questions.
okay.
So, starting with the music, first question, your favorite song to play live?
Favorite song to play live. I don't know that I have a favorite song to play live. I guess, it's always cool to see a reaction when I play. I love to say fuck. Just eh, for the old school fans that know what's coming, it's great. But for that one person that came into the show with their friend that doesn't know, and I pop out that umbrella, and just to see their face, I've seen people just literally just have that smile that they just it will not wash off their face, and so that's just that makes me happy, and knowing that I'm doing it with profanity makes me happy.
Your most embarrassing moment on stage?
Definitely this last tour when I went up to introduce my band myself. I hopped up onto my riser and lost my balance, and I just couldn't stop falling forward, and luckily that audience caught me. I'm not a stage diver. I've never stage dived. I've never, but I literally just could not stop falling forward, and um, that was embarrassing and terrifying. And they just set me. They caught me and put me. If they wouldn't have caught me, I wouldn't have finished. That you wouldn't have saw me in Raleigh, or you would have saw me with a split face.
Oh, Jesus.
I
Well,
was up. I was up 8 feet at least on that riser when I would have if they wouldn't have caught. And it was not a sold out even remotely. It was a very light crowd, and that was terrifying. Thinking about it right now, like fuck.
your dream tour lineup?
Um, Current or of all time? Of all time, it would be like Twisted Sister, Wasp, Alice Cooper, Motley Crue, but a future tour or something that's possible now. I mean, would be Alice Cooper, Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, Wednesday 13, Summer of Blood. That would be the ultimate tour right now for me.
Your favorite thing to do outside of music?
Uh, get lost in this collecting stuff, going and looking at collections, adding to my collection. That's sort of when I'm not thinking about music, this is my other hobby.
And the last one for the music section, the song you wrote that means the most to you.
Oh man, I don't know that I have a song that means the most to me. Um, I don't write a whole lot about personal stuff, but like I said, to see a victory of a song, a song like I love to say fuck, example, like to see that reaction. But there's so many people that know us just because of that song, and talking about Alice Cooper through this whole interview is, he was one that told me that when he saw that reaction with the audience in that song, he had that same look on his face. He was just smiling. He's like, that's the equivalent of me cutting my head off.
Yeah.
So, but that song, even when before I was using the umbrella or whatever, that song back when I was playing it in bars before Murder Dolls or anything with my old band in North Carolina, that was the first song that we played and people at the bar that were there drinking, not to see my band, turned around every time, and I knew then, I knew then. I went, this is the hit that can never be played on the radio.
And now to the horror movie section. The Your favorite slasher,
My slasher killer, Michael Myers.
favorite Universal monster,
Creature from the Light Lagoon, for sure, for sure.
vampires or werewolves,
Werewolves.
sequels or remakes.
Sequels.
And the last one, the one horror movie that had the biggest impact on you.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's my go-to movie. It's my family movie. Uh, it's not just about Leatherface in that movie to me. So it's just many many reasons.
Well, this was everything that I had planned for you for this interview. I had so much fun talking with you.
Awesome, dude.
Was there
Thank
any
you.
closing message to any Wednesday 13 fans watching?
Thank you for listening, and I got plenty more coming at you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for the time. As you can tell, I'm a big fan, and I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that like your music helped me a lot, and I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing with Dead Noise now had I not discovered your music. So just
Awesome, dude.
thank you
Thank
for
you.
all the years of music, and I can't wait to see you again.
Thanks, dude. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, and to everybody who watched this, thank you for watching. And until the next interview, stay tuned, stay scared, and I'll catch you later.